This video is brought to you by Gamersubs. Use code MHB at checkout for 10% off your next order. It's been a while since we've done a wheel video, relying on the odds to pick which game we platinum next. But as you can see, the wheel has lost a few kilos since the last time we did this, so what the hell happened? You see, as much as I love letting fate decide my next platinum, the regular wheel got to over 400 games big, and I just found myself dreading and avoiding this behemoth as a result. There's just too many games, and where getting a random game to platinum is fun, it's not as fun when I only felt maybe half the games were something I'd actually be interested in playing. But I wanted to get the wheel back in the rotation of videos somehow, and that's when I realized the answer was right in front of me the whole time. Why not chuck my gaming backlog into a wheel? The backlog is every gamer's David vs Goliath, and I thought this would be a great way to still get my random platinums and also finally play some games I've had on my to-do list. Now this backlog wheel is actually separated into two wheels. The one we'll be looking at today, which is for games I've never played, and the other for my trophy backlog, so games I've started but never platinumed. So without wasting any more time, let's spin the wheel and see what we get this time. Alright, it is time to spin the wheel again, and as you can see, 11 games, that's a hell of a culling from 400, so I just want to quickly explain myself here. This is not the, I'm not saying the normal wheel will never come back, but I wanted to try some different things to get the wheel to come back, because I do think it's a lot of fun. This one here is my backlog. Now, this is not my entire backlog. I wish it was just 11 games. These are games that I picked up day one or close to it, or I've had for a long ass time, and I've just never played them. I'd pick them up either on sale or, yeah, again, day one for full price and never got around to playing them. So there's just the 11 games. Nothing too crazy. And there's a couple that I'm a little iffy on. Not as in like, I don't think they'll be fun, but they're just not like top tier games. There's some games I've heard are fantastic on here though. Like me personally, I'm rooting for Alan Wake 2. The Last of Us Part 2 I've never played, but I've heard, you know, I've heard mixed things. You either love it or you hate it, it seems. Return to Moria looks like a lot of fun. Survivor, Spyro, like these are all games that I picked up for a reason day one, but just for whatever reason, I never got around to playing. But for now, these were like the 11 games. I'm like, okay, why have you not played these games? Like that's literally it. Like, why did you not bother to play them? You bought them, you've paid your hard-earned money for them. Just I think it's about time we play some of these. So let's spin the wheel and see what we get in the first of the backlog series, I guess. Ooh. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. When it was going to Tony Hawk, I was a little scared. So, Necromunda Hired Gun is awesome. And this is one, again, I picked up pretty close to release. I think I own this on PC, Xbox, and the PS5. So, that's kind of my dumbass picking up the game 3 times and not playing it once. But I'm excited. Yeah, this will be interesting. Let's see how we go. Now, I know what some of you are already thinking. What the hell is Necromunda Hired Gun? Well, it's a game set in the Warhammer 40k universe, which I'm sure most people have heard of. It's been around since 1987, most well known for their iconic Space Marines. I am what you call a very, very casual fan of Warhammer 40k, and what I mean by that is I don't play the tabletop, and reading the books feels like learning a second language. But I love experiencing the games set in this universe, and I have ever since I played Dawn of War back when I was 7 years old. This love for Warhammer 40k has taken me to all sorts of gaming genres, from RTS all the way to third-person and first-person shooters, and even if the games aren't great, I usually still just love experiencing more of this world. But that's enough talking 40k as a whole. What about Hired Gun? What type of game are we in for? Well, in essence, think Doom Eternal meets Titanfall, and that pretty much sums it up. We have a fast-paced FPS on our hands here today, and I'm excited to get started. As always, if you do end up enjoying the content, be sure to like the video, comment below some more platinums you'd like to see me tackle next, subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos, and go over to twitch.tv/MayorHairBear if you want to see some of these platinum journeys live. Step 1 on this journey is, as always, pretty straightforward. Play through the 13 main missions and beat the game. There's no missable trophies, and we'll need to play through most missions again anyway, so just sit back and have fun. Now again, this is set in the 40k universe, which has been around for almost 40 years now. And what that means is, there is way too much to go over to try and explain what the hell's going on here for newcomers, and honestly, I don't think the story's that interesting anyways. But I'll give you the basics so you can at least sort of understand Necromunda itself. Necromunda is a hive world, a world filled with factories, mines, refineries, and processing plants. So much so that the world has been extracted of all its resources. So not really a habitable planet for most outside of powerful gangs who rule below in the many hive cities. Think termite or ant colonies. Basically, it's a very industrial environment filled with scum and villainy, and that's where we come in. We are a hired gun, a man on the hunt for a bounty. Things basically go tits up, our buddies die, and we get some cybernetics to get superhuman abilities. That's really all you need to know because, again, the story is the weakest element of the game, but it sets the stage for some badass gameplay. Seriously, before we get to the trophies, I have to say the gameplay is so much fun. It's fast paced, you have so many options to dispatch of your foes, from standard run and gun to wall riding and grappling. The weapons pack a good punch. We can set our Mastiff onto our enemies, perform takedowns, and have plenty of special abilities to spill a bunch of blood and guts. The story is weak, so the reasons we're going through these levels are impacted as a result, but the gameplay is a really good time. Anyway, let's talk trophies. As for completing the main story, you're guaranteed to unlock 13 trophies for completing all 13 of the action-packed missions. The Bounty. Captive for finishing Chapter 2. The Beast. The Ambush. That was a crazy mission. And the Escape. The Siege. The Dark. The Stare. The Meeting. Gang War. The Scent. Martyr's End. Alright, we got one more mission left. The Pass. That's the story done. Not too shabby. But of course, that's not all we unlocked during this first step, as I also unlocked a further 17 trophies for doing things like buying our first upgrade. Small update. Petting the best doggo. Oh, who's a good boy? That's always the way, isn't it? You gotta have, if there's a dog, you gotta be able to pet it, and if you can pet it, there's a trophy for it. Letting Brickjaw live in Chapter 2. Future best friend. Upgrading our Mastiff. Man's best friend. Who let the dogs out? Killing 100 enemies with a headshot and performed 100 takedowns. Headache. Sadistic. Gained over 100,000 credits all up. Banker. Found a +3 weapon. Explorer. Oh, fun, that was a +3 weapon? God damn. Upgrading one of our implants to max level. Still human? Killed 60 enemies with aimbot. Perfect aim. There we go. It's not cheating. Customized every aspect of a weapon. There we go. Perfect weapon. Killed 100 enemies with our powers. Hey, there we go. Bionic Master. Killed 5 enemies in 1 strength booster rage. Hey, there we go. Who needs weapons? Opened our 20th chest. Treasure Hunter. Is that for 20 chests? And killed 30 enemies with the Crush and Blast modules. Kaboom. Zap. That's a hefty amount of trophies to grab pretty naturally just by mainly experimenting with the combat, upgrading yourself with your hard-earned cash, and exploring levels for more weapons and loot. Again, story-wise, it is really disappointing how little I gave a crap about what was actually going on, even by the end feeling more confused than anything else from the info dump. but the combat encounters accompanied by the incredible soundtrack are just a blast from start to finish, which is good because we'll need to replay most of these levels again at least once if we can execute properly. But with step 1 complete, it was on to step 2, which for me was to try and knock out any remaining miscellaneous trophies I may have missed my first time through, such as playing through one of these secondary missions, which are set within the main levels but are much shorter with a quick and easy objective. Seriously, some of these you don't even have to fight any enemies, you can just sprint to the end. Additional income. So that's our second mission done. Taking away 50 shields with our grapple because shield enemies are the absolute worst. Now I see you. Is that for the 10 shields? Didn't even know that guy had a shield. Playing enough of the secondary missions from a single faction to completely fill up the bar, which doesn't take too long, as again, these missions can take less than a minute to complete. New allies. That was pretty quick, we smashed that down. Finally found the shooting range that's not the gladiatorium, and is instead, of course, above the gun shop in Martyr's End, and completed it. Bullseye! That was really easy. God damn, we should have done that a long time ago. Killed 10 enemies in a row with headshots, which really made me feel like John Wick. There we go, sniper. And in that process, completed the first level again without using any other gun bar the starting pistol. The one and only. In chapter 2, instead of letting Brickjaw live, this time taking him out nice and quickly, ruthless. And while I was doing that, managed to finish the mission using nothing but special weapons. Yeah, at least we got the specialist. Once again back at Martyr's End using the gladiatorium as a way to farm kills, as you'll see later, to finally kill an enemy with some of the last remaining weapons I needed. Hey, there we go, I only needed 3. Weapons lover. And finish chapter 8 without using our grapple hook at all, which is pretty simple, just avoid L1 and you'll be right. Pedestrian. Now that was essentially step 2 completed, even though we still had quite a few miscellaneous trophies remaining, and that's because I decided we'd work on the rest while completing the final step, which is solely focused on the trophy, the best student, for finishing all 13 missions with an A rank or higher. This is the trophy that worried me more than anything going in, because rank-based trophies can be quite tricky, and my confidence was done no favors when, after beating the main story for the first time, I'd only managed to get an A rank on 2 levels. Thankfully, that confidence skyrocketed back up after replaying chapter 2, which is where I managed to unlock an S rank. Who's the boss now? That was an S ranking, damn. So, how does the scoring work? How do we get a high score in these levels? Well, it's broken down into 3 categories: kill style, treasure chests, and medical or maintenance fees. The latter 2 are pretty self-explanatory. Find all the chests in the level and don't use any healing items and you'll S-rank these no problem. The weird one is kill style, because if you're like me, you'd assume, oh, I need to mix up my weapons and methods of killing enemies for the best score, which is completely wrong. To get a high score in kill style, all you really need to do is basically treat every enemy like zombies, aka go for the headshot or use takedowns, which in this game are incredibly overpowered. That's it, you don't need to mix up your weapons or anything, just get headshots and takedowns, find all the chests and don't heal, which by the time we're going for this trophy, we're basically max level, and you can at a minimum A rank every mission, if not S rank them. You can miss a chest or 2 and heal once, but try your best to get these to S rank, as it saves stressing if you don't get enough kill style points. So I pulled up a treasure chest guide, used primarily my upgraded pistol since it was a headshot machine, and we went to work completing the 13 missions again. In between missions, I was making sure to stop by the gladiatorium to clean up the remaining combat trophies like wall running for 2,500 meters. Hey, we got Gecko's feet. Killing 100 enemies while wall running, which thankfully is heavily aim assisted. Oh yes, death comes from above. And traveling 5 kilometers with our grapple. Oh, cool, that was easy. I hate walking. With all the combat related trophies done though, all we had left was a few mission specific trophies, as once we got to chapter 7, making sure to take out one of the gene stealers with a grenade launcher, which by the way is a surprisingly ineffective way to battle these enemies, so thanks for that game. There we go, kill it with fire. Triggering all the mines in chapter 9, which I thought I did my first time through, but of course they have one cheeky mine set up all on its own out the way. Diffuser, yes, oh, I don't have to do that again, thank goodness. And finally, in chapter 11, placed all 5 bombs in less than 3 minutes, which the timer doesn't start until you place the first bomb, so this is actually a very generous time to beat. Godspeed. But with all those trophies out the way, all we needed to do was complete the last couple of missions with an A rank, and that platinum was mine. Now, I'm not gonna lie, there were some hairy moments in these later missions, especially in regards to trying not to heal, because there's a lot of enemies, sponge heavy bosses, and environmental hazards to boot. This is where I was glad I had maxed out my character, because without heightened sense, or essentially a time freeze ability, I think these missions would have melted me. I mean, I was running around with a pistol for those headshots, so without my handy abilities and the best dog, yeah, this would be intense. Thankfully, at this point, I was just superhuman with all my upgrades and weapons that even if occasionally stressful, we still managed to get an A rank on every level in the game, and Necromunda Hired Gun's Platinum was mine. The best student, let's fucking go. Real hired gun. And we ended with an S rank, which is pretty fucking dope. That was a good game. That's a good time. So, after 13 hours in total, which seems to be about the average for this experience, what did I think of Necromunda Hired Gun's Platinum and the game in general? Let's start off with the game itself, because this one got some pretty mixed reviews at release, which if you play a lot of 40k games is nothing new. There's a jank about these games, no question, and Hired Gun definitely has that. I mean, the amount of times I got stuck in the environment due to the grapple was a few too many. As I've said multiple times as well, the story really is just a big old nothing burger. It's just not interesting or engaging. I didn't care about the characters or what was going on or who anyone was, and that was a letdown because I always like to see these games make new fans of 40k, and at least story-wise this almost does the opposite. I can't see absolute newcomers coming in and understanding what the hell is going on, and that's a problem. With all that being said though, man, did they get the gameplay right here. This is a fun game to play. The shooting feels good, the options of death and destruction are nice and varied, the arenas have a nice bit of verticality to them, making the gunfights feel more dimensional. The enemy encounters can really test your movement and skill, especially on higher difficulties. The soundtrack pairs with the action so well, and it was just a good time. Same goes for the Platinum Trophy, honestly. Most trophies are pretty natural to stumble across just by mixing up your approach in combat, and trying to A rank every level added a lot of fun and stress to each encounter that I really enjoyed. I can't really think of much I didn't like about this Platinum. If you're a fan of a good fast-paced first-person shooter, I'd definitely say Hired Gun is worth a look, and I'm really glad I finally knocked this one off my backlog because despite its flaws, this one was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far into the video, make sure to leave a comment with "For the Emperor" to let me know that you made it to the end. If you did enjoy the video, don't forget to leave it a like because it helps let me know that you enjoyed yourself. Comment below some more games you want to see get platinum next, as well as answering what's a game on your backlog that you really need to get around to playing. Thank you as always to my channel members for that extra level of support, and special thanks to those in the Bear Club: G&T Puppy, Jackie White, Nugget, Darkwolf, Daniel Fitzgerald, Scott Unwin, Steel Vanguard, NPO Crusader, Nef, and Lug Knights. It really does mean a lot to me. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. Go give my socials a follow if you fancy @MayorHairBear. Join the Discord server to have a chat. Go and chuck me a follow on Twitch if you want to see some of these platinum journeys live, or MayorHairBear VODs if those pesky time zones don't line up for you. And I'll catch you all in the next video.